Betrayal never comes from your enemies. It always comes from those you trusted the most. Those words cut deep, don't they? Because the truth is, strangers can't wound you like that. Only the ones you let closest to your heart can twist the knife. And when it happens, it feels like the ground disappears under your feet. My friends, they thought betraying you would ruin you, that walking away would leave you crawling in the ashes. But they had no idea what they set in motion. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes we're going to turn that pain into your greatest power. Before we go further, hit that like button, subscribe, and don't miss this, because what I'm about to share might just change the way you see betrayal forever. Hey folks, imagine this. You're building a house brick by brick, pouring everything into it. Your time, your trust, your loyalty. Then one day, someone you trusted walks in, lights a match, and burns it all down. They walk away laughing, thinking they've destroyed you. But here's the irony. They only burned the old house. They forgot the builder still exists. You are the builder, and this time you'll rebuild stronger, sharper, and unshakable. That's the part betrayers never think about. They think you're finished, but really you've just started. Let's be real. Betrayal isn't just about losing someone. It's about losing the illusions you held on to. You thought loyalty was mutual. You thought love always protects. You thought being good meant being safe. But my friends, here's the lie. Good people get hurt too. Stoic wisdom tells us it's not the betrayal itself that destroys us, it's what we believe about it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In simple words, it's not the knife they threw, it's the meaning you attach to the wound. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Betrayal hurts like hell. It makes you question yourself. Was I blind? Was I weak? Did I deserve this? And while you sit there replaying every detail, they're out there smiling, acting like they won. But here's what they don't see. Betrayal is like a fire. It burns everything false, everything fragile, everything weak. And when the smoke clears, what's left is the real you. Stronger, wiser, untouchable. They thought they buried you, but they forgot you were a seed. My friends, life has a funny way of keeping score. You don't need to plot revenge. You don't need to chase karma. Karma has no need for your permission. It shows up on its own. Betrayal is its own punishment, because people who lie, cheat, and manipulate end up trapped in their own mess. Seneca once said, "Every guilty person is his own hangman," meaning the betrayer's punishment isn't your anger, it's their conscience, their reputation, their own chaos catching up with them. You don't have to carry that weight. Your only job is to rise. And here's where it gets powerful. Every moment you choose silence over reaction, every time you walk away instead of fighting battles that aren't worth it, you're showing them something they'll never forget. Indifference is power. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need their validation to move forward. What you need is your own decision to stop bleeding for people who cut you without remorse. That choice, my friends, is liberation. So don't sit around waiting for them to regret losing you. Don't scroll their pages wondering if they're happy without you. Let them live with the consequences of their choices. You build, you grow, you rise. Because one day they'll look back and realize the person they betrayed didn't just survive, they became unstoppable. And when they do, the regret will be heavier than any revenge you could have planned. My friends, this is your moment. Say it with me. I rise in silence. Write it in the comments. Let the world see it. Press the like button, subscribe to this channel, and stay with me, because what's coming next will not only open your eyes, it will set your soul free. Number 1. The illusion of winning. They thought betraying you meant they had won, but in truth, it was the very moment they started losing. Think about that for a second. Betrayal looks like victory in the eyes of those who walk away. They smirk, they celebrate, they convince themselves they've pulled the final move in the game. It's like a chess player who knocks down your king too early, only to realize the game wasn't over. It had just shifted into a level they never prepared for. Betrayal gives the illusion of power, but my friends, that illusion doesn't last. Imagine this. They walked away like a thief in the night, believing they stole your light, believing they left you powerless. But let's get one thing clear. You were never the candle, you were the fire. And fire doesn't die when someone tries to smother it. It retreats, it waits, and then it roars back, brighter and hotter than before. But of course, at first, it doesn't feel that way. At first, it feels like your whole world collapses. Questions start eating at you in the silence. Why did they do it? Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? The mind spins like a carousel of self-doubt, each thought another stab to your already bruised spirit. And while you're drowning in questions, they walk around laughing, posting, smiling, convincing the world that betraying you was the best decision they ever made. That is the illusion of winning. That's what stings most in the beginning. Not just the betrayal itself, but the belief that they're out there thriving while you're here gasping for air. But let me break the lie right now. They didn't win. Betrayal is not victory, it's exposure. When someone betrays you, they don't reveal your weakness. They reveal their own. They show their fear, their insecurity, their inability to handle real love and loyalty. Epictetus reminds us, when someone acts badly, it is because they have judged it to be right. In other words, they didn't betray you because you lacked value. They betrayed you because in their twisted mind, it made sense to destroy what they couldn't control. That's not your reflection, it's theirs. And yet rising from this place isn't easy. Why? Because betrayal shakes your foundation. It makes you question the very things you believed about life. That loyalty is always returned, that love is safe, that being real protects you from being discarded. Folks, here's the truth. Life doesn't protect good people from pain. It transforms them through it. Stoicism teaches us that pain is not just something to endure, it's something to use. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. Betrayal feels like an obstacle, but in reality, it becomes the very road you needed to take. Still, I know what you're thinking. But how do I walk that road? How do I face the fear of being alone, misunderstood, left behind? Those fears are real. Fear whispers that if you don't fight to prove yourself, you'll be forgotten. Fear tells you that silence means weakness. Fear convinces you that you need them to validate your worth. But fear, my friends, is the loudest liar in the room, because silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Walking away without giving them the chaos they crave is not defeat, it's discipline. Refusing to play their game is not surrender, it's strength. Let me give you another picture. Imagine betrayal as a storm that rips through your life. It knocks down the weak branches, it scatters the leaves, it shakes your roots. But when the storm is gone, what's left standing? The tree itself, stronger, deeper, unmovable. That's you. They thought the storm would break you, but the storm became your pruning, your reset, your cleansing. You were never destroyed. You were refined. So let's break another lie. They think they left you behind. They think you're frozen, stuck in their shadow. But in truth, every step they took away from you was a step closer to their own downfall. Because life always circles back. Karma is not lightning, it's gravity. It pulls everything back to its rightful place. They betrayed a good man, and life does not reward betrayal. It punishes it silently, surgically, in ways you don't even need to witness. Here's what's hard for most people to grasp. You don't need to see them fall. You don't need to hear their apology. You don't need to chase closure, because their collapse isn't your business. It's theirs. Your only focus should be on rebuilding yourself in silence. Think about it. Every time you choose not to react, every time you decide not to explain, every time you keep building instead of begging, you're shifting the scales of power. You become untouchable because you're no longer in their game. That's what Stoicism is all about, mastering yourself instead of being mastered by circumstances. And my friends, it's not going to be easy. Silence will feel heavy. Walking away will feel like losing. Choosing peace will feel unnatural at first because your emotions will scream at you to react. But that's the test. Seneca once said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." And that's what this moment is about, not conquering them, but conquering yourself. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's the training ground for your self-mastery. So when they walk away smirking, let them. When they post pictures pretending they're happy without you, let them. When they tell their side of the story, twisting facts to paint you as the villain, let them. Because in the end, the truth always unmasks itself. Your silence will echo louder than their noise. Your growth will scream louder than their gossip, and your peace will sting them more than any words ever could. So let's turn this pain into power. The illusion of winning ends today. They didn't win. They revealed themselves. They didn't destroy you. They released you. And they didn't write your ending. They gave you a new beginning. My friends, write this in the comments right now. I choose peace over proof. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your silence is not your weakness, it's your weapon. Stay with me, because what comes next will expose not just why they betrayed, but why their betrayal will end up being the greatest loss of their life. Number 2, the first cut, the deepest lesson. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. My friends, betrayal doesn't come like a stranger knocking at your door. It comes like a thief already inside your house. It comes from the people you laughed with, trusted with your secrets, maybe even built your dreams around. That's what makes it sting so deep. A stranger can't break you, because you never gave them the key to your heart. But when someone you trusted betrays you, it's not just an action, it's a soul wound. And that first cut? It always feels like the deepest one. Imagine this. You hand someone your favorite glass vase. You tell them, "This means a lot to me. Please take care of it." And they nod, they smile, they promise. But the moment your back is turned, they drop it. Not because it slipped, but because they wanted to see it shatter. That's betrayal. It's not the loss of the vase itself. It's the realization that the hands you trusted most were the ones that broke it. And in that moment, 1,000 questions erupt in your mind. How could they? Why me? Did I not matter? Was I just blind? That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just hurt your heart, it poisons your perception. You start doubting your judgment, doubting your worth, doubting your ability to ever trust again. It whispers to you in the dark, "Maybe you're the fool, maybe you're the problem." But let me break that lie right now. You weren't the fool, you were the genuine one. You didn't fail, they failed you. You valued the bond, they broke it. You honored loyalty, they discarded it. You stood in truth, they chose deception. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Betrayal, as brutal as it feels, is not the definition of who you are. It's the definition of who they are. The first cut feels like it's about you, but it's not. It's their inability to rise to the level of your loyalty. It's their weakness masquerading as power. And the Stoics remind us of this truth. Pain is a teacher. Betrayal becomes a lesson, not because you deserved it, but because life knew it was time to show you who never deserved your trust in the first place. Still, let's be real. Rising from that first cut isn't easy. Folks, I won't sugarcoat it. It feels like someone ripped out your compass and left you in the storm. You walk into a room and every memory is a reminder. Every place, every song, every inside joke feels like a scar reopened. And while you're bleeding, they walk away as if nothing happened. That's the knife twisting deeper, the illusion that they're fine while you're falling apart. But here's what you need to remember. Just because someone pretends to walk strong doesn't mean their path isn't leading them to a cliff. Life always keeps receipts. Think of betrayal like fire. Fire destroys, yes, but it also purifies. It burns away illusions, false friendships, fragile hopes. And once the smoke clears, you're left with something more durable. Yourself, raw but real. It's the refining process. Just like gold has to be put through the fire to shine, you have to face the burn of betrayal to discover the strength you didn't know you had. That first cut. It may have bled the most, but it also forced the deepest growth. Now, some of you may be wondering, why did they do it? Why would someone betray someone who gave them nothing but loyalty? And that's the tormenting question, isn't it? The truth is, betrayal often has less to do with you and more to do with them. People betray out of fear. Fear of your growth, fear of your standards, fear that they can no longer control you. They betray not because you weren't enough, but because you were becoming too much for their comfort. You became a mirror showing them their own insecurities, their own flaws, and instead of facing that reflection, they shattered the glass. Let me give you a picture. You're climbing a mountain. You invite someone to come with you. At first, they're excited, but as the climb gets harder, as the air gets thinner, they start resenting the climb. They look at you, steady and determined, and it makes them feel small. So what do? Instead of pushing themselves higher, they push you down. Not because you didn't help, not because you weren't loyal, but because they couldn't stand watching you rise. That's betrayal at its core. Not about your lack, but their fear of being left behind. And yet, the hardest part isn't the betrayal itself. It's the silence that follows. You wait for an explanation that never comes. You hope for an apology that never arrives. You think maybe if you just understood why, the wound would close. But the truth, my friends, is you don't need their words to heal. Closure doesn't come from them. Closure comes when you decide the cut will no longer control you. Marcus Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Now, let's be honest, that feels impossible at first. Of course you feel harmed. Of course you feel broken. But what he meant is this: the moment you shift your perspective, the moment you stop attaching your worth to their actions, the cut loses its power. It happened, but it doesn't have to define you. You decide whether the wound becomes a scar of weakness or a mark of wisdom. So let's talk about why this is so hard. Because part of you still wants justice. Part of you wants them to admit they were wrong, to feel what you felt, to pay for the damage they caused. But here's the paradox. Chasing their punishment keeps you tied to their betrayal. You don't heal by holding the knife they left in you. You heal by pulling it out, cleaning the wound, and walking forward without carrying their poison. And that, my friends, is the hardest and bravest thing you'll ever do. Think about this. Every scar on your body is proof that you healed. The cut was deep, yes, but the skin grew back, stronger, tougher, less vulnerable in the same spot. Emotional scars work the same way. You may never forget the cut, but one day you'll look at it and realize it didn't end you, it rebuilt you. So here's the motivation I want you to hold on to. Betrayal is not the final chapter. It's the introduction to your evolution. The first cut? That's the awakening. That's the moment life shakes you, not to destroy you, but to redirect you. And once you understand that, you realize they didn't ruin your life, they rerouted it. They didn't bury you, they planted you, and from that soil of pain, you rise taller than before. Write this in the comments right now. I rise from the cut. Say it with conviction, show it to yourself, show it to the world. Because that's what transformation looks like. The first cut may have been the deepest, but it will also be the scar that proves you were never broken. You were only being rebuilt. Stay with me, because next we'll dive even deeper into the real reason why they betrayed, and why what they thought was their escape will become their greatest prison. Number 3. Why they betrayed. Fear, not hate. People don't destroy what they hate most. They destroy what they fear losing control of. Let that sink in, my friends, because when someone betrays you, the easy conclusion is to believe they hated you, that they wanted to hurt you just for the sake of cruelty. But most betrayals don't come from hate. Hate is too simple, too honest. Betrayal comes from something far uglier and far more common: fear. Think of it this way: fear is a shadow that follows people everywhere. It creeps in when they see your growth. It stirs when they realize your standards are rising. It panics when they sense you are no longer as easy to control as you once were. Fear whispers to them, you're losing them. You're not enough for them. They're going to outgrow you. And instead of facing that fear, instead of rising to meet your growth, they sabotage the bond. They choose betrayal, not because you were too little, but because you were becoming too much. Imagine you're running a race, shoulder to shoulder with someone who started at the same line. For a while, you match pace. You laugh, you talk, you encourage each other. But then, you start pulling ahead. Your strides are longer, your breathing steadier, your focus sharper. Instead of letting your success inspire them, they feel it like a mirror shoved in their face. And what do? Instead of running harder, instead of leveling up, they trip you. They push you off the track so they don't have to face the truth of their own weakness. That's betrayal born from fear. And yet, when it happens, what's the first thing we do? We internalize it. We think, was I too much? Did I change too fast? Did I ask for too much? No, my friends, you weren't too much. You were simply evolving into someone they could no longer manipulate. That's not a flaw. That's power. Betrayal is the desperate move of someone who knows they've lost control. It's the gasp of a drowning man who will pull you down rather than admit he never learned how to swim. Epictetus once said, "When someone acts badly, it is because they believe it is the right thing to do." In their mind, betraying you wasn't cruelty, it was survival. They convinced themselves they had to lie, cheat, or walk away because your growth made them uncomfortable. But let's break the illusion. It wasn't survival, it was cowardice. They chose the shortcut of betrayal instead of the discipline of growth. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some people thrive only in chaos? They're comfortable when things are unstable. They love drama, manipulation, and codependency. Why? Because chaos keeps them in control. But the moment you start choosing peace, the moment you start setting boundaries, the moment you start refusing to play their games, they panic. Your stability feels like a threat to their instability, and instead of adapting, they attack. Not because you harmed them, but because you reflected back everything they were too afraid to face within themselves. Let me paint a picture. You're standing in front of a mirror, but instead of showing your reflection, it shows theirs. They see their insecurity, their inconsistency, their lies. They can't stand it. And what do? They smash the mirror. That's what you were to them, a mirror. You weren't the problem. The problem was what they saw when you stopped tolerating their nonsense. And this is why betrayal hurts so much. It's not just the loss of the person, it's the realization that your loyalty became a mirror they couldn't look into. You weren't rejected because you were weak. You were rejected because your strength exposed their weakness. But here's where it gets difficult. Because deep down, you might still crave their validation. You think, if they just admitted I was enough, I could move on. But my friends, waiting for validation from someone who betrayed you is like waiting for the thief who robbed you to come back and return what they stole. It's not coming, and even if it did, it wouldn't fix the wound. That healing doesn't belong to them, it belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What does that mean? It means their betrayal is their problem, not yours. Your job isn't to mirror their cowardice with bitterness. Your job is to rise above, to become the kind of man who refuses to live in fear or manipulation. That's how you win, not by stooping to their level, but by showing that your integrity, your growth, your peace cannot be broken. Now let's be real. It's tempting to take betrayal personally. It's tempting to think, if I had done more, maybe they wouldn't have left. If I had given less, maybe they wouldn't have taken advantage. But those are illusions. The truth is, no amount of less would have satisfied someone who feared your light. And no amount of more would have filled the emptiness inside them. People don't betray because you failed, they betray because they did. Think of fear like quicksand. People who live in fear are always sinking, and instead of reaching for your hand to climb out, they grab your ankle and pull you down with them. But you, my friends, you were not meant to sink. You were meant to rise. And their betrayal was life's way of cutting the cord to the quicksand that was never yours to carry. And yet, it's not easy to accept. Why? Because fear breeds confusion. They may betray you and still claim to love you. They may hurt you and still act like the victim. They may discard you and still find ways to circle back. That's the manipulation of fear. It twists the story so you doubt what you already know. But let me make it plain. Loyalty doesn't betray. Love doesn't sabotage. Real friends don't walk away when you start to rise. What they did wasn't love, it was fear. And fear has no place in the foundation of your future. So what do? You rise anyway. You stop explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking so others don't feel small in your presence. You stop watering down your growth to keep others comfortable. Because every time you dim your light for someone else, you betray yourself. And my friends, that's the one betrayal you cannot afford. So let this sink in. They didn't betray you because you were weak. They betrayed you because your strength reminded them of their weakness. They didn't walk away because you weren't valuable. They walked away because they couldn't afford the price of your loyalty. They didn't choose someone else because you lacked. They chose someone else because they feared they'd never measure up to what you already were. That's not hate. That's fear, plain and simple. And what's the cure for fear? Courage. Your courage to rise, rebuild, and walk in silence. Your courage to let their betrayal be the mirror of who they are, not a definition of who you are. Your courage to keep your heart open, your standards high, and your dignity intact. Because while fear destroys, courage creates. My friends, this is where transformation begins. Not in revenge, not in waiting for them to collapse, but in realizing that their betrayal was never about your lack, but about their fear. And you are not here to live in fear. You are here to master yourself, to rise in dignity, to prove not to them, but to yourself, that nothing can take away your light. So write this in the comments right now. I rise above fear. Let it echo, let it show, let it be the banner of your healing. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that betrayal was never your ending. It was the beginning of your courage. Stay with me, because next we'll uncover the secret weapon that betrayers fear most. Not your anger, not your revenge, but your silence. Number 4. The power of going silent. Never waste your words on people who deserve your silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Think about that for a moment, my friends, because when someone betrays you, the first instinct in your gut is to scream, to expose them, to defend your name. You want to type out the long message, confront them face to face, make them understand the pain they caused. That's human, that's natural. But here's the paradox. When you react, you give them oxygen. When you go silent, you starve them. And silence, my friends, is the one weapon they never see coming. Imagine this, a fire blazing out of control, flames licking the walls, smoke filling the air, chaos everywhere. What does fire need to survive? Oxygen. Feed it and it rages. Starve it and it dies. Now picture their manipulation, their games, their drama. It's fire. Every time you respond, argue, or try to explain, you're giving them oxygen. But the moment you step back, the moment you stop reacting, the fire sputters. That's the power of silence. It suffocates what was meant to consume you. But let's be honest, going silent isn't easy. The fear creeps in. If I don't respond, won't they think I'm weak? Won't they believe their lies? Won't everyone side with them if I don't defend myself? That's the trick of your emotions. Fear tries to convince you that silence means surrender. But Stoic wisdom flips that idea on its head. Silence is not surrender. It's strategy. It's restraint. It's control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your power doesn't lie in controlling what they say about you or how they spin the story. Your power lies in controlling your response. And sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. When you go silent, you take back control of your mind. You declare, "I will not be dragged into your chaos. I will not let your storm enter my peace." That, my friends, is true mastery. Picture this moment. You receive a text full of accusations, lies about you, twisted words, bait designed to provoke. Your fingers itch to reply. You start typing, deleting, retyping, but then you stop. You put the phone down. You breathe. You let silence answer for you. Hours pass, then days. They wait. They prod. They expect the explosion, but nothing comes. That silence, it's not weakness. It's a fortress. It's proof that they no longer have the key to your emotions. And here's what most people don't realize. Toxic people fear silence more than they fear confrontation. Why? Because confrontation gives them material. It gives them something to twist, to gossip about, to use against you. Silence gives them nothing. They can't manipulate words that were never spoken. They can't argue with a voice that refuses to engage. They can't pull you back into the game if you've walked off the board completely. Silence robs them of control, and control was all they ever wanted. Let me tell you what usually happens when you go silent. At first, they mock you. "Oh, so you're ignoring me now?" Then they poke at your pride. "Guess you don't have the courage to face this." When that doesn't work, they guilt trip. "After everything I did for you, this is how you treat me." And finally, they panic. They realize the leash they once held over your emotions has snapped. And the moment they see they've lost access to you, that's when the game truly ends. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. But if I stay silent, doesn't that mean they get away with it? Doesn't that mean they win? No, my friends. Silence doesn't mean they won. Silence means you chose peace over performance. It means you stopped auditioning for people who were never qualified to judge your worth in the first place. It means you understood a simple Stoic truth. Your dignity is not up for debate. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." How much of your life have you wasted arguing with people who already decided not to see your truth? How many hours, days, months have you spent typing essays to prove your loyalty, your goodness, your side of the story? That's time you never get back. And silence gives it back to you. Silence says, "I will not waste my life trying to convince those who are committed to misunderstanding me." That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Let me paint another metaphor for you. Imagine your peace as a bank account. Every word, every reaction, every argument you give to the wrong people is a withdrawal. Slowly, your balance runs low. But silence? Silence is saving. Every time you choose not to respond, every time you choose not to give away your energy, you're making a deposit into your peace account. And one day, while they're broke from drama, you'll be wealthy with calmness. That's the return on investment silence offers. And here's the beautiful part. Silence transforms you. In the beginning, it feels unnatural. You'll fight the urge to explain, to shout, to be understood. But over time, silence becomes your strength. You realize you don't need to attend every battle you're invited to. You realize peace is worth more than being right. You realize walking away isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. And that's when silence stops being a tactic and becomes a lifestyle. Friends, let me break another lie. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is not fear. Silence is not passive. Silence is a boundary. It says, "You no longer deserve access to my voice. You no longer get the privilege of my reaction. You no longer own space in my mind." That's power, because when you withdraw your energy, you force them to face themselves. And believe me, many would rather destroy the mirror than look into it. But that's not your problem anymore. So here's your affirmation for today. My silence is my strength. Write it in the comments right now. Let it be your declaration. Show them. Show yourself, show the world around you that silence is not your cage. It's your crown. And remember, silence doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've felt enough, and now you've chosen peace over chaos. It means you've stopped bleeding for people who cut you without remorse. It means you've decided that your life, your energy, your growth is too sacred to waste in arguments that don't heal. So, the next time betrayal tempts you to shout, to explain, to fight, pause, breathe. Let silence answer for you. Because nothing terrifies those who betray you more than realizing they no longer have power over you. And nothing strengthens you more than knowing you no longer need to prove a thing. Stay with me, because next we'll uncover something even deeper. The truth about karma, why you don't need to chase revenge, why you don't need to expose them, and why life itself has already begun writing the ending they thought they escaped. The consequences they fear most aren't loud, they're silent, inevitable, and waiting. And you, my friends, won't even need to lift a finger. Number 5, natural consequences, karma without noise. Every guilty person is his own hangman. Seneca's words slice through centuries to hit us with a truth so sharp it almost stings. My friends, let's stop for a moment and sit with this, because when someone betrays you, the urge to seek revenge is strong. The temptation to make them pay burns in your chest. You want them to feel what you felt, to see what you saw, to suffer like you suffered. But here's the irony. Life has already prepared their punishment, and it is far more precise, far more brutal, and far more permanent than anything you could ever design. Think of betrayal like planting seeds. Every lie, every manipulation, every cowardly act is a seed dropped into the soil of their own life. And seeds always grow. They may not sprout tomorrow, they may not bloom next week, but sooner or later the harvest comes. They thought betraying you was a clever shortcut, a way to escape responsibility, but in truth they were sowing weeds into their own future. And those weeds, they choke, they spread, and eventually they consume everything. That's karma, not magic, not superstition, but the natural law of cause and effect. Imagine them walking away, chest puffed out, believing they won. They leave you in the rubble, smiling at the illusion of victory. But what they don't realize is this: betrayal is a boomerang. You throw it out into the world, and sooner or later it comes back sharp and swift. They didn't escape the storm. They created it, and now it circles back toward them. But here's the problem: you may not always see it. And that's what makes it difficult. You sit there asking, why does it look like they're happy? Why does it look like they're thriving while I'm here hurting? It's one of the cruelest illusions in the aftermath of betrayal. On the outside, they post smiles, new relationships, new opportunities, like everything is falling into place. But here's the lie: no one outruns their character. You can fake happiness, you can fake success, but you can't fake peace. And when the night comes, when the mask slips, when they're alone with their thoughts, the weight of what they've done presses down like a stone on their chest. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What you do to yourself, even if unseen, clings to you forever." The betrayer may believe they got away clean, but inside the damage is already done. Because you cannot betray loyalty and still live peacefully. You cannot destroy trust and still walk freely. They may distract themselves, they may run from one new thrill to another, but life always finds them. The conscience always collects its debts. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture a man walking through the forest, carrying a sack of rocks. Each rock represents a betrayal, a lie, a moment of cruelty. At first, the sack feels light. He laughs, he runs, he believes he's free. But with every betrayal, another rock drops into the bag. And over time, the weight grows heavier and heavier. His back bends, his steps slow, and eventually he can't move. The very actions he thought freed him have now chained him. That is the quiet cruelty of natural consequences. And this is why you don't need to chase revenge. Because revenge would only bind you to them. Revenge would make you pick up your own sack of rocks, carrying their weight with you. Why would you waste your life carrying a load that isn't yours? The most powerful move you can make is to put your burden down and walk away, knowing life has already begun building theirs. But I'll be honest, this requires faith, not blind faith in miracles, but faith in reality, in human nature, in the Stoic law of cause and effect. Because here's the truth: what you sow, you reap. Betrayers sow lies, and they reap distrust. They sow manipulation, and they reap instability. They sow cruelty, and they reap isolation. They may not fall today, but over time their life reflects their choices. They bounce from one failed relationship to another, one broken friendship to the next, one unstable job to yet another collapse. And all the while, the world sees through them more and more. Picture this. At first, people believe their story. They paint themselves as the victim, and others buy it. But slowly, patterns emerge. More people notice the cracks, the inconsistencies, the drama that follows them everywhere. And suddenly, those who once believed them start whispering, maybe it wasn't them after all. Maybe it's him. Maybe he's the problem. That shift, my friends, is the boomerang returning. The mask slips, and the truth catches up. Now, I know the hardest part is patience, because you want justice now. You want to see the downfall today. But karma doesn't rush. It waits for the perfect moment. It doesn't announce itself with noise. It slips in quietly in the form of their sleepless nights, their broken connections, their restless soul. You don't always get a front row seat, but trust me, they feel it. And when they see you thriving, when they see you at peace, that becomes the sharpest sting of all. Seneca said, "The greatest punishment of wrongdoing lies in the act itself." Let me break that down. Their punishment wasn't just in what they lost, it was in what they became. Betrayal corrupts the betrayer. It twists them into someone smaller, someone weaker, someone emptier. They didn't just betray you, they betrayed their own character, and now they have to live with that. Let me give you a real picture. Imagine a man who betrays his partner, cheats, lies, manipulates. At first he feels powerful. He thinks he's clever. But then he moves to the next relationship, and guess what? He can't trust her either, because he knows what he's capable of. He becomes paranoid, suspicious, insecure. His own actions eat him alive from the inside. That's not your job to enforce. That's life doing its work. And here's the shift I want you to embrace. You don't heal by waiting for karma to strike. You heal by letting go, by focusing on your own growth, your own peace, your own future. Because the moment you stop obsessing over their downfall is the moment you step into your rise. They thought betraying you would break you, but it became your rebirth. They thought they escaped, but they became trapped in the very mess they created. And you walked free. So let me ask you, my friends, what's more powerful? Chasing them, trying to punish them, tying your energy to theirs forever, or walking away with dignity, letting life handle them while you rebuild higher than they ever imagined? Stoicism teaches us that indifference is power. And indifference doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've decided their chaos will no longer decide your peace. That's the ultimate punishment for a betrayer, realizing they no longer matter. So write this in the comments right now. Life keeps the score. Let it be your reminder. You don't need to scream. You don't need to prove. You don't need to watch. Because natural consequences are already in motion. Their lies are their prison, their fear is their punishment, and their conscience is their executioner. And you are free. Stay with me, because next we'll talk about something even more powerful than karma, the currency of dignity. Why rebuilding yourself with silence, boundaries, and grace is not just survival, but self-mastery. And why that dignity will always outlast their betrayal. Number 6, dignity, the currency of self-mastery. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Those words, echoed through the ages by great Stoics, hold a truth we often forget in the chaos of betrayal. My friends, when someone betrays you, it feels like they snatched away your dignity. You remember the begging, the explaining, the endless attempts to prove your loyalty, to make them see your worth. You replay the moments where you lowered your standards, thinking maybe if you just bent a little more, they'd finally appreciate you. And after it all crumbles, you sit there, not just with heartbreak, but with shame. You think, why did I let myself sink that low? But here's the truth. You didn't lose your dignity forever. You just misplaced it. And the beauty of dignity is this. You can always reclaim it, piece by piece, choice by choice. Let me give you a picture. Imagine your dignity as a crown, not made of gold or jewels, but of self-respect, discipline, and clarity. When betrayal happens, it feels like that crown is knocked off your head, trampled in the dirt. You feel naked without it, exposed, ashamed. But the mistake most people make is waiting for the betrayer to pick it back up and place it on their head again. My friends, they can't. They never will. That crown was never theirs to give back. It's yours to reclaim. And every step you take towards silence, restraint, boundaries, that's you polishing that crown and placing it back where it belongs. Let's break the lie right now. Dignity isn't lost when they betray you. Dignity is lost when you keep betraying yourself. When you chase someone who discarded you. When you explain yourself to people who already made up their mind. when you fight to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you, that's when dignity slips. But here's the beauty. You can stop that cycle today. You can choose in this very moment to say, enough. I will no longer betray myself for the comfort of others. That decision alone is the first step back to self-mastery. Why is dignity so powerful? Because dignity is the currency of peace. You can lose money, you can lose opportunities, you can lose relationships, but if you still have dignity, you have everything you need to rebuild. Dignity is what allows you to walk away without burning everything down. Dignity is what lets you be misunderstood without rushing to explain. Dignity is what keeps you calm when others throw stones at your name. Because dignity whispers, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. Now let's be honest. Reclaiming dignity after betrayal is hard. Why? Because emotions fight against it. Your pride screams, defend yourself. Your pain cries, make them see. Your anger demands, destroy them the way they destroyed you. But dignity requires restraint. It requires choosing silence when your ego wants noise. It requires walking away when your emotions want war. And that's why it feels like the hardest path, because it's the higher path. Marcus Aurelius said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things can't shape our decisions unless we let them. Betrayal can shake you, but it doesn't have to define you. Losing someone's loyalty doesn't mean you lost your own value. Their disloyalty is their shame. Your dignity is your choice. And when you realize that, you stop giving them the power to define you. You stop handing them your crown. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone walk away quietly, with no explanation, no revenge, no drama, and somehow that silence made them unforgettable? That's the power of dignity. People remember calmness in chaos. People notice when you don't react the way they expected, because dignity makes you stand out in a world addicted to outrage and noise. It's rare, it's magnetic, it's powerful. But here's where most stumble. They confuse dignity with pride. Pride says, I'll show them I'm better. Dignity says, I don't need to show them anything. Pride is loud. Dignity is quiet. Pride wants the world to clap. Dignity wants nothing but inner peace. And here's the irony. When you choose dignity, the world ends up clapping anyway. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence, your calm, your silence speaks louder than any speech ever could. Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine a man betrayed by a close friend in business. His instinct is to blast him online, expose every dirty secret, make sure everyone knows the truth. But instead, he walks away quietly. He rebuilds, starts again, and within a year, his business thrives beyond what it was before. Meanwhile, the betrayer struggles to find stability. People notice. They whisper, funny how one man stayed calm and grew, and the other is still stumbling. That's dignity at work. It doesn't shout. It doesn't campaign. It just proves itself in time. And here's something the Stoics understood deeply. Your reputation is not your responsibility. Your character is. People can smear your name. They can spread lies. They can twist your story. But your dignity, your self-respect, your calm, that's untouchable. That's the one thing no betrayal can steal unless you hand it over willingly. And once you stop chasing reputation and start protecting dignity, you become unshakable. Now let's address the hardest part. Why is it so difficult to walk in dignity after betrayal? Because dignity demands letting go of the need to be right. And our ego hates that. We want to prove. We want to be vindicated. We want everyone to know the truth. But let me tell you, vindication isn't your job. Truth has a way of revealing itself in time. Your job is to keep your dignity intact while life does its work. Epictetus said, "If anyone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself against his words, but reply, 'He surely does not know about my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" That's the humility of dignity. You don't rush to correct lies. You don't beg for validation. You don't demand apologies. You stand calm, knowing that your value is not up for debate. And that calmness drives betrayers mad. They expected tears, rage, desperation. But when you give them silence, grace, and self-respect instead, they realize they lost something they can never regain. So, my friends, let this be your reminder. Dignity is not about winning arguments, it's about winning yourself back. It's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses, wiser than your emotions, and calmer than their chaos. And once you reclaim that, you become untouchable. Here's your affirmation for today. I reclaim my dignity. Write it in the comments right now. Let it be your declaration. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your dignity is no longer negotiable, because in the end, betrayal doesn't take away your power. It gives you the opportunity to rise into a version of yourself you didn't know existed. A version that chooses silence over screaming, peace over chaos, dignity over drama. And that version, that's the one they never expected to see. That's the one they'll never forget. Stay with me, because next we'll step into the moment they dread the most, the day they circle back, hoping for the access they lost forever. And we'll talk about how your silence becomes the final gate they'll never pass through again. Number 7. When they circle back. The past will knock on your door again, not because it loves you, but because it hates being locked out. My friends, betrayal has a strange rhythm. First, they walk away, they smile, they gloat, they live in the illusion of victory. But time always shifts the ground, and sooner or later they circle back. Not because they've grown, not because they've suddenly discovered your worth, but because silence starved them, because peace robbed them of control. Because when their games no longer work on others, they remember the one person who once gave them loyalty without conditions, you. And that's when they come knocking. Picture it. Months pass, maybe years. You've been rebuilding in silence. You've grown stronger, calmer, sharper. The wounds have turned into scars, and the scars into wisdom. Then, out of nowhere, a message pops up. "Hey, just thinking of you." Or maybe, "I miss what we had." Sometimes it's an apology, sometimes it's bait, sometimes it's nothing more than an empty attempt to see if you'll still react. At first, your chest tightens. The old version of you, the one that once craved their validation, wants to respond, wants to believe maybe they've changed. But the man you are now, the man forged through silence, restraint, and dignity, knows the truth. They don't miss you. They miss the access to you. Let's break the lie. When they circle back, it's not about love. It's about leverage. Narcissists, manipulators, betrayers, they don't long for your soul. They long for the control your emotions once gave them. You were their mirror, their validation, their supply. When you went silent, that mirror shattered, and the absence of your reaction. That silence terrifies them more than your anger ever could. They circle back, not because they're healed, but because they're empty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Apply this here. When they circle back, you have a choice. You can see their message as a reopening of the wound, or as proof of your strength. Because the truth is, if they're reaching out, it means your silence worked. It means your absence is echoing. It means the power they thought they stole is no longer theirs. But let's be real. Resisting that pull isn't easy. You'll hear the whispers in your mind. Maybe they really changed. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe I owe them one more chance. That's not wisdom speaking. That's loneliness. That's nostalgia. That's the echo of the old version of you. And that's why you must remind yourself, people don't change their character overnight. If betrayal was in their nature then, betrayal is still in their nature now. The patterns don't vanish just because they're quiet for a while. Imagine this scenario. A thief breaks into your home, steals from you, and leaves you in shambles. Months later, he shows up at your door with flowers, smiling, asking to come back inside. Would you hand him the keys again? Of course not. Then why give emotional keys to someone who's already proven they'll misuse them? Forgiveness, yes. Access, number. That's the line. And your silence is what enforces it. Here's what usually happens when they circle back. First, they test the waters. A casual message, a like on your old photo, a comment meant to remind you they still exist. If you respond, even a little, they take it as permission to push further. But if you stay silent, if you remain calm, they spiral, they mock, they guilt trip, they try to provoke. And when none of it works, reality hits them. They no longer matter in your world. That's the punishment they fear most, not your revenge, but your indifference. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." When they come back, don't see it as temptation. See it as confirmation. Confirmation that your silence starved their control. Confirmation that your growth shook their ego. Confirmation that the door they once slammed in your face is no longer theirs to open. That's not just healing, that's mastery. Now let me speak directly to your heart, because I know how strong that tug can be. You miss the good moments. You miss the laughter, the intimacy, the connection. But don't mistake memory for reality. The good was never good enough to excuse the betrayal. The laughter was never loud enough to cover the lies. The intimacy was never deep enough to protect your dignity. And the connection. It was only as strong as their loyalty, and their loyalty snapped the moment they betrayed you. My friends, this is where you rise higher than ever. When they circle back, you don't need to respond with anger. You don't need to slam doors or craft comebacks. You simply stay silent. You let your growth, your peace, your presence speak for itself. Because silence is not just absence, it's a full sentence. It says, this chapter is closed, this door is sealed, this access is denied, and nothing confuses, frustrates, and devastates a manipulator more than realizing they can no longer provoke a reaction. Think of silence like a locked gate. They can knock, they can shout, they can rattle the bars, but the key is gone, and the key is your reaction. Without it, they're powerless. They're left to sit outside, haunted by the realization that the version of you they betrayed no longer exists. You didn't just walk away, you evolved. And evolution always creates distance that betrayal can never bridge. So let me leave you with this truth. Their return is not your test. It's theirs. It reveals whether they truly grew or whether they're still the same person in a different disguise. And your silence? That's your final exam. Pass it and you walk free forever. Fail it and you're dragged back into the same cycle. But you already know which choice leads to peace. Here's your affirmation, one last time. I am the closure. Write it in the comments right now. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you don't need an apology to heal, you don't need revenge to rise, and you don't need their return to prove your worth. You are the closure. And if this message spoke to your soul, if it gave you strength in the middle of your silence, press that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Because this isn't just content, it's a community, a brotherhood of resilience, of stoic strength, of unshakable dignity. Stay with me, my friends, because the journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. Calm, powerful, untouchable.